What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sherdog.com. You are here in the trenches. I am Anthony Walker, Sherdog contributor, also of MMA On Point. And of course, as always, I'm joined by a man who needs no introduction, yet I take so much pleasure in introducing him simply because he's so incredible. He's so great. Luxurious, even if you want to call him that. He is the incomparable Mr. Jason Burgos, also known as Captain Credential, the CEO collector himself. Mr. Burgos, how are you doing today, my brother?
I've never been called luxurious before. It makes me feel like I'm a love seat or a couch on some level, which is pretty good, I guess. Those are really liked and appreciated. But I mean, I'm excited. I feel like I've actually this week have earned my introduction. I've got a lot of one stuff. I've gone to UFC Philly in a couple of days. I really feel like I'm earning my money this week on the show.
I feel you, man. It's like you're really like you're breaking news, bro.
I am. No one's noticing, but I am.
I see you out there, man. I see you out there. You're doing some things. So I'm seeing some chatter on Twitter about one championship possibly trying to make moves into the U.S. And there was a question that I fielded toward Rich Franklin and Eddie Alvarez at the one media day in Vegas. But you followed up talking to Chatri and you got a definitive answer about moves that are being made in Madison Square Garden. And if you heard it somewhere else, best believe Jason Burgos is the guy they heard it from. So that's what's up. Captain Credential is out there doing the damn thing. Salute to you. I can't now. I gotta give multiple kung fu bows right now because your opponent is going to get his regular one every week. but the CEO collector gets the kung fu bow right now.
I mean, I brought up the Rich Franklin thing too because you had told me about it, and he told you 2020, and I asked this guy 2020. He said that 2020 is not for sure definite, but it's strong possibility. But when he told me Madison Square Garden, I was like, "What? You coming to New York City, Chatri? Oh shit!"
Oh, 'tis a beautiful thing. 'Tis a beautiful thing. So let's go ahead and get cracking on these questions here. We got. Unemployed Mario Yamasaki in the chat says, "What's up, Ant? What is up, my man?"
Well, I don't get it. What's up? Wow, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Screw you, unemployed Yamasaki.
Well, he said, "What's up, Ant?" But then he put 2 thumbs up. So the 2 thumbs up are for you, Mr. Burgos.
No, I don't want it.
We're just allocating the love right here. Allocate the love.
I don't want it.
Well, just bitter in your celebrity. Huh? now he says, "What's up, Burgos?" So,
Too late.
All right, so let's get started with a question from one of our other top guys around here on the trenches, Frank McEdgar, who asks, "Do you guys believe Conor McGregor will actually stay retired?"
No. Even if this whole thing with the sexual assault issue and complaint and allegations, go further. I mean, even if he went to jail, no. I mean, Mike Tyson went to jail for a while. He came back and forth, no, because he's still young. I mean, Jay, I don't know what Conor's age is, but what would you say? Maybe
I think 31? He's 31. I want to say 31.
So let's say he's gone for the next 3 years. He could still come back at 34, 35. So I highly doubt it. I mean, businesses fail. So even though he's doing great with the whiskey, that doesn't mean he's going to do great forever. So for a man his age, no, he's definitely coming back at some point. But when that is, no idea.
Yeah, man. So, all right. So, Jay says he's 30 right now. He'll be 31 in July. So we're right on point there. All right. So my opinion on this, no, Conor McGregor will not stay retired. And I think we've seen this before. I distinctly remember him having some dispute with the UFC related to him main eventing UFC 200 and him not wanting to do the media obligations and the back and forth. They moved him to 202 and he before that was finalized, he tweeted out that he was retired and see you later. Thanks for the cheese.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is in the same vein. And this is not really a surprise to me considering what we see going on with the UFC from a financial standpoint right now. They have all this guaranteed money coming in from ESPN and now ESPN being the exclusive home of the US pay-per-views. And Conor is making a great deal of money from pay-per-view points. So you put in a system that takes away the amount of people that will be buying the pay-per-views just inherently because you put another barrier to entry. So you've cut down his money that way. Then on top of that, the UFC is probably making more percentage-wise per pay-per-view sale than they did with the old deals with DirecTV, Comcast, and Dish Network or whatever else. Because now you're talking about the UFC raking in more money, and you're not going to cut Conor McGregor in? Get all the way the fuck out of here. If you think that's going to fly in his mind with his people, considering the amount of revenue that he has generated and the amount of interest that he's generated in the UFC. So I think this is kind of right in line of what we would expect from Conor McGregor. I would be very surprised if this took place and Conor just let it happen. I'd be very, very surprised by that. And that is definitely not what's going on right now. Conor McGregor is going after his money. So definitely keep that in mind. This man is not genuinely retiring. Now we're going to go further into these allegations with the next question, and I'll tie it all in together. Question 2 is from Robbie. He asked, was that story in the New York Times about Conor newsworthy since there was no new information from January?
I mean, I guess it was newsworthy if you didn't know about it, and I personally didn't really know about it in terms of these details. If you didn't know, which it seems like, because it caught on real quick and it was all over all the MMA sites, so clearly not many people knew outside of Ireland. And also reading the New York Times article, which was informative in that how the laws work for celebrities in Ireland, that he publicly can't be named in these allegations until he's actually convicted. Very unlike the US, where you are straight up convicted in a court of public opinion, even though you may be vindicated and innocent down the line. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was informative because it seemed like in a weird way, almost similar to a certain colleague in the journalism field got into some trouble with the internet pedophilia. It was out there and he got arrested and whatever, he got caught, but it didn't break till well later because just how, I guess, the press covers arrests in the UK is definitely very different than the US. So even with the superstar on his level, in the article, they talk about a news agency telling their workers that they can't say his name even in meetings. So it was almost like the way the system is, it's kind of under wraps until someone is convicted.
Right. I mean, I definitely think this is newsworthy. And like you said, yeah, a lot of people didn't know about this. I did know about this back in mid-January. I kind of hearing some rumors about it. And if you were around certain people, you were hearing about this. And it was pretty much unsubstantiated. There was really nothing to it. And in fact, the original story that I think was published in The Sun, which to my knowledge is considered like trash tabloid in Europe, had this story, but it was with the unnamed Irish sports star.
Yes.
That's how they referred to him.
Yep.
And this New York Times article, I mean, a good call on Robbie there. Like, one thing that I noticed from this New York Times article is there was literally no new information. My first thoughts were okay, maybe new evidence has surfaced. Maybe new evidence has surfaced, and now this has warranted the New York Times, which is a very well-respected media conglomerate, to pick this story up and to run with this and kind of put their name behind it. But also, I mean, when you're looking at it, it's like not a whole lot there to verify. I mean, speaking to a source of mine, he was saying like, I think there was just the amount of time it took for them to get certain people on the record to say that, yes, this investigation is going on. And yes, it is, in fact, Conor McGregor, as opposed to naming him as the quote unquote Irish sports star. So this is more of like the slow wheels of proper journalism taking place, as opposed to just kind of going in for the hot take for the big headline. Now, as far as how this can relate to McGregor's retirement, I mean, I definitely don't think that his words on Twitter, just hours before this story dropped on New York Times, had anything to do with McGregor's announcement. I don't think it had anything to do with it whatsoever, because regardless of this, the ESPN thing is still going on. His money is still going to be affected by this new structure for pay-per-views. So regardless, he would still put up some sort of resistance to that. And that just makes sense. Now, if these allegations turn into charges, which then turn into a conviction and all that, yeah, we have a whole nother conversation to talk about.
Mm.
We have an entirely different conversation to talk about, and on a more personal note. And I wouldn't say it's more of a personal note. I just think it's really disgusting. All the people who are out there and hoping this is true because of their bias against McGregor. Say what you will about him throwing a dolly at a bus. Say what you will about him being disrespectful to opponents in the lead up to a fight. Say what you will about his gas tank. Say what you will about any particular flaw that you want to throw upon this guy. And you don't have to acknowledge what his accomplishments as an MMA fighter. But if you hope that this man committed a brutal sexual assault all to validate your opinions about somebody, you're a piece of trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if one of y'all are watching right now, fuck you. You're a piece of trash.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just that simple. Like, we're beyond talking about sports. We're talking about human beings.
Yes.
So if your hatred of Conor McGregor outweighs your love of humanity, get the fuck out of here. Your presence is not welcome. It's a wrap for you. It's fucking stupid. Like, act like you got some damn sense, people. And I know that's very hard for some of the intellectually challenged out there that somehow find their way into this sport. But get all the way the fuck up out of here, please, and thank you. All right? So I'm off my soapbox right now. So unemployed Mario Yamasaki just hit us up with a question in the chat. How much longer can Conor's star power go if he stops fighting?
Honestly, I feel like he's a made man, so it won't ever truly go away until maybe he's older, because in that case, he's older. People are just naturally, in a general sense, go, he's like 42. Come on, what's he gonna do? But still, so considering he's fairly young, and whenever let's say he comes back a year or two from now, he's only 33 years old. He's still only lost to the elites of the elite. I think he's just one of those guys. He's a special kind of character. He's a Mike Tyson. He's a Bryce Harper, a LeBron James, he transcends his sport on a mainstream level that his name is golden. Shit, the man sells whiskey and it's making money. He's an MMA fighter. He's not a distiller, like his name is so worthwhile on a mainstream level. It's not going to go away. I mean, even with this, like I said before, Mike Tyson got arrested for, I believe it was the same situation, sexual assault, something like that. He went away, he did his time, he came back, and everybody got over it. And the same kind of fighter, knockout fighter, exciting. People kind of get over that stuff even when it comes to being entertained, unfortunately.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on that. And now I think I'm thinking even beyond just Conor as a fighter. Conor, like you said, has transcended the sport of mixed martial arts and is just kind of like a global star now.
Yeah.
But keep in mind some of the opportunities that have been presented to him as a result of his fighting career that now could possibly be independent of his fight career. He was, I believe, he made an appearance in a Call of Duty game.
Right.
A year and a half ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Up until I forget which fight interrupted this or which fight he decided to take instead of this, but he had an opportunity to co-star in a major action movie. I think Michael Bisping ended up taking that part eventually. But he's been given opportunities outside of the fight world. So if he were to not fight a day again, the whiskey, he getting paid off that, getting paid dumb off that. So bills are paid. You don't have to worry about that. Now, as far as him staying relevant and staying in the public eye, those Hollywood opportunities would still come around. Those video game opportunities would still come around. There would still be possibilities of him coaching. There are a lot of things that could be done to have Conor McGregor included. So I don't think we ever would really get rid of him. I don't think the world of pop culture would ever just be rid of the man because he wouldn't let it, and the opportunities would keep on coming in his lap. So.
Though I will say, in this era we live in, with the R. Kelly thing, the Michael Jackson thing, the Bill Cosby thing, the Me Too movement thing, if he were convicted of sexual assault, even if he didn't get time, that could hurt him huge. I mean, Mike Tyson lived in a different time. That was like, what, 1994, 95 when he went to jail? Like, this is a very different time. Social media, this, if he were convicted, those opportunities would probably I would think disappear. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So everything that I was saying is independent of the sexual assault thing. If he is tried and convicted, and yeah, you can put a wrap on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And a proper 12 whiskey would still be going on. It's not like they could take the company away from him. And at this point, he has the whiskey itself has deals in place outside of the UFC. Never mind the fact that he actually was able to get his logo and money for putting proper 12 logo in a UFC cage. They have an existing deal with PFL. Right. We've seen proper 12 commercials on TV. Like, this is a real legit brand that probably ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
And even if it did go somewhere as a result of these, I would assume he'd be able to sell this to somebody and take away his name from it. The brand would still thrive on, and he'd have a check to live on. So either way, Conor McGregor he's sitting pretty right now.
Assuming he doesn't blow it all. He's not the kind of guy that would do that.
Assuming he doesn't blow it all. You just hope the guy has like beyond proper 12 has some sort of like real estate investments or has some good financial planning, because that man could spend some money. All right, so let me see. I'll take another one from the YouTube chat before I go back to our main list here.
YouTube chat's busy tonight.
Yeah. YouTube chat is popping right now. So we got a question from designated member.
You all subscribed. Everyone in the YouTube chat, we love your questions. Also, if subscribe to the channel if you have not yet.
Yeah, like and share that shit too, man. Appreciate that.
Please.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to designated member drop a question. I'm going to get back to that because we're going to come back to this weekend's action. Let's see here. So we got one question from Buffo on the Beat. I guess that's how it's pronounced. It said, have y'all seen Conor's side chick and kid? That child support ain't going to be cheap. Yes, step out your pull-out game, fellas. Step out your pull-out game. Or how about this? Don't cheat. Don't cheat, bro.
You know, me and my girlfriend were actually talking about that. He seems like the kind of guy that cannot help himself. He's just oozing testosterone. And I am still shocked that D. Devlin and him were still married, especially after, was it Ariana Grande? He took the picture at like an award show and it said date night.
Rita Ora.
Rita Ora. After that, and
just remember the name.
Yeah, like after all the drama, man, she is ride or die. She must be making some money off of him. She is ride or die.
And them fur coats don't buy themselves now.
Exactly.
Oh man. All right. So okay. Let's see. All right. Will Conor ever fight Paulie Malignaggi? Do you want to see that fight? No, I don't want to see that fight. But I'll watch it if it happens. Yeah. So let's go back to the more pressing questions real quick. And we got another one from Frank McEdgar. He asks, do you guys believe that Thiago Santos is the most deserving contender to fight John Jones for the light heavyweight title, or is he simply the most entertaining choice? Jason, what say you?
I would say, Frank, it's a little bit of both. It's a division that doesn't have like those clear-cut guys. And we've talked about this division a lot in like the last month, 2 months. Like it's just there's no clear-cut guys. There's those guys that are in a lot of tougher divisions. Like lightweight would kind of be a fight or two away from contention or fight away, and they're getting title shots because there's nothing clear-cut. There's a lot of guys just hovering in the same area. So. But also, yes, he's the most exciting. He's known for this aggressive striking style, knockout, going for the knockout. So both. He's probably the best option right now, and he's the most entertaining. So money is what they're seeking.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling you on that because Thiago Santos happens to be, at least out of the light heavyweight division, happens to be the most entertaining guy you can put in front of him. But he has earned his position.
Yeah.
He's earned it. Like I don't think we can deny what Thiago Santos has done. He's come up to light heavyweight and he's just started knocking people's heads off. So, hey, I mean, you knock out Jimmy Manuwa, you take out Volkan Ozdemir. Like, hey, I like what that means. That means you're ready for this. So I'm really curious as to what other suggestions you guys would have for him at light heavyweight. Because, okay, we just saw him rematch Gustafsson. He steamrolled him. Daniel Cormier is not coming back to light heavyweight. So we can X that out. Oh, and by the way, John Jones already beat him twice. Even if you put an asterisk next to those fights, Rumble nowhere to be found. He probably couldn't make light heavyweight anymore. You've seen how enormous the man is now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like at light heavyweight, there's really nothing else. Like Dominic Reyes, his last performance doesn't quite say ready for a title shot, even if you had a weak ass call out after the fight. So I'm not feeling that. Johnny Walker's not ready yet. So really, Thiago Santos is what you have. Now, what I find the most interesting about this is that the perfect way to deflate any talk about the possibility of excitement between an action fighter like Thiago Santos and a pure tactician of violence like John Jones is by teasing us with Jones versus Stipe Miocic, and then hours later announcing this is the real fight. So
yes,
I don't know what to make of that. Like,
do you think that means John was kind of like gaming the UFC a little bit, and maybe he wasn't thrilled by this option of Thiago, so he just wanted to throw out there to purposely deflate it a little bit?
You know what? That actually sounds like that would make some sense, and that's probably the best logical explanation for that, because the UFC wouldn't want to leak the possibility of a big fight like that, and then give us the champion versus the number one contender like that. That just doesn't make sense if that's what the plan was initially. So maybe this was John Jones angling for a bigger fight. Obviously, it looks like the UFC won. So I don't know if they greased up the pay a little bit more or what have you. But yeah, I will say that took a lot of steam out of this announcement. And then to follow that up with Amanda Nunes versus Holly Holm, which is a great fight in and of itself too. But wow, like you give us Jones Stipe and then you take it away. That was mean. Yeah, that was really mean. All right, so let's let you got something to add. We'll move on.
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right, so next question is from Yo Jimbo, who asks, is it smart to have John Jones and Amanda Nunes on the same card? On paper, these seem like non-threats to both champions.
I think that's exactly why they're on both. They're both on the same card because, and I said this on Twitter too. Both sites are on paper exciting and they draw interest, but both champions are clearly the favorites. And then when you really think about the fights themselves, they're clear far favorites. But both dogs are live, so that's why they put them both on there, because they're thinking the fans may look at it like, I'm not going crazy about it, but the chance to see both of them on one card. Hopefully they're thinking 2 title fights on one card will bring them out. And that's something that the UFC has done a lot of in the last 2-3 years, a lot of double title fights. They just did John Jones, Anthony Smith, and Usman Woodley on the same card. So now that they're on pay-per-views, they kind of really trump them up with a lot of title fights on them anyway. So it fits a lot of things they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, this is also for International Fight Week, so they always go all out for some of the names that you can find on an International Fight Week card. And I know at some point they were previously discussing Conor McGregor and Cowboy Cerrone on this as a co-main to DC versus Brock Lesnar. So there's definitely been big plans for International Fight Week, as there are every year. And also keep in mind the Jones and Nunes pairing has happened before. I was just sitting in the forum at UFC 232 where they were paired up. Of course, Cyborg versus Amanda was a huge fight, and Cyborg's presence brought a lot of attention to this whole thing. But Jones and Nunes emerged victorious, and it was a very successful pay-per-view. Off the top of my head, I want to say it sold like 750,000 buys or something like that. So that was a very successful pay-per-view with that pairing. Why not do it again for International Fight Week? And we got to see what the rest of this card is going to look like. But I'm pretty sure this is going to be a very, very stacked, very good card because they always show out for International Fight Week. And I will definitely be in the building for that one. All right. So let's see what we got next. All right. So we got a little bit of chatter on the chat. And so let's go here with got one comment from unemployed Mario Yamasaki, who says Jones needs to go to heavyweight for the big fights. He's also suggesting Jones versus Ngannou, which I'm not mad at that matchup at all. Like that sounds like a fun fight. Yeah. But once again, I know I've said it for the past several weeks, but we can't complain about too many super fights, and we can't complain about illegitimate champions and these mixed up and screwed up divisions, and then kind of dismiss a champion versus number one contender matchup. Like those two things just do not blend together. We can't complain about one and then shun the antithesis of that.
Like MMA fans, and it's maybe like the drawback of MMA fan or UFC fans getting what they want in terms of the right kind of booking. But damn, MMA fans really get tired of a dominant champion very quickly.
Very.
Like someone just going on like a 9-fight defense in one division and being a legend in the division. They just don't want it anymore. They want everybody to move up or down. And I get it. That's a great fight. I love all those fights, and I'm all for it. It's just like sometimes it's good to just be a champion and dominant champion, like we talked about last week. And when you finally get that person that beats them, man, they are gold. Holly Holm, Chris Weidman, Frankie Edgar, Matt Serra. It's good to have those moments.
Yeah, agreed. So also we got a comment from Frank McGregor on the chat too, who's done double duty on the forum and the chat. So that's what's up, Frank. Says Jones' intelligence and mind games are very underrated. I would definitely agree with that. He is an extremely intelligent fighter and does play a lot of mind games like that like humble asshole approach. It definitely works wonders with an opponent's mind. He also says that Nunes versus Jermaine Durandamy needs to happen. He says that's the only person who can give Nunes problems. But I do remember Nunes finished Jermaine Durandamy some years ago. Yeah. I would disagree. Like style wise, I think Holly Holm is the person that could give her the most trouble. I don't anticipate Holly Holm to win, nor do I think she's necessarily the most deserving of a title fight. But when you just look at the pure styles, you look at Nunes's aggression with Holly's ability to counterstrike and her anti-grappling abilities. When I definitely see more chance for something exciting to happen with those two than I would with a lot of other women in the bantamweight division. So I'm all for the Nunes Holm fight.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. I just wish it was Holly Holm 3 years ago. I mean, she's Jay, if you could check, 37, 38, and she's got a lot of miles on her from boxing and stuff like that. It's just, I wish it was a younger Holly Holm, and maybe we can correlate her losses without a doubt with competition, but maybe she's finally just slowing down because she's of her age, because you nailed it. I mean, her style really is the right kind of thing we haven't seen against someone like Nunes. People that want to stand in front of Nunes and point strike, you're not going to win. Shevchenko, who's excellent at it, couldn't do it. But someone that can move, has footwork, go left and right. Nunes has a little chase, had to cut off the ring, had to do those little fine nuances. We haven't really seen from her too much. So it's a great test. I just wish she was a little younger, but
yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So also another comment in the chat says light heavyweight will remain dead if Bones sticks around. I mean, light heavyweight will be even deader if he leaves. Then who will you want to watch then? Yeah. And maybe maybe Johnny Walker is the future. I wouldn't be surprised by that outcome, but he's not there yet. Yeah, so I can't say. And Luke Rockhold coming up to light heavyweight, who now is official that he's going to be fighting Jan Blachowicz. And I believe that's also going to be on International Fight Week, if I'm not mistaken. So if Rockhold emerges victorious in that, hey, now we've got that exciting match. Jones beats Santos, and then Rockhold beats Blachowicz. We've got the possibility of a very entertaining fight, at least in the buildup. And style-wise, probably wouldn't be too bad either. So let's not kill the divisions by taking away its best guys. Let the best guys stick around in their divisions and do work, and we can appreciate these people for being great at what they do, instead of just kind of you graduate, now you move up. Like, you don't graduate fighting. You don't graduate. You just keep fighting.
Yeah, imagine because DJ got a little bit of it towards the end. Imagine George St. Pierre's run. Like, they would have been calling for him to go to middleweight so bad after a certain point, and who was another one that had like a good run? I mean, even BJ at one point, like, oh, BJ needs to go up, which he actually did. But, just a little patience is good. Just being a great champion is not a bad thing.
Right. And once again, complaining about super fights, but then encouraging the super fights.
Yeah.
Beyond a certain point, it's like let a champion just be a champion. If he decides he wants to move up, so be it. We'll watch, of course, but I definitely wouldn't be calling for anyone's head if he doesn't.
Yep.
All right. So let's move on to another question that we've prepared for already. So although I'd say prepared for it loosely because I just saw these questions about 5 minutes before we went on. So yeah, that's what I did.
I saw them when we already were on.
Oh, well, all right. The level of preparation is stunning.
Which is that good. The knowledge is there at the tip. So we don't need it. We don't need preparation.
Burgos, you impress me continually, sir. All right, so this next question is for one of my favorite names on the forum, Jetty and the Benz. For all you Elton John fans out there. He asks, Cain Velasquez is joining Mexican wrestling? I thought he hurt his knee.
That's a good one. I like that. I mean, yeah, I thought he hurt his knee too. But I mean, if he's just doing his usual training, he doesn't need surgery or whatever. I don't know how much, maybe his knee, he didn't tear a ligament, whatever. But then again, people tear ligaments and they fight for several years and then get surgeries in MMA. So who knows? Either way, I love it. It's great to see. I love the crossover from wrestling and UFC. It's unique. How the relationship between this entertainment industry and this real life sport is so linked. You just don't see it. That's like actors that became baseball players. Like Robert Downey Jr. started pitching for the A's. You don't see that. It's a unique thing, and the fact that he went to the WWE Performance Center like 5-6 months ago and is now doing this shows he's very serious about getting into wrestling. And if he can get into wrestling, and that's how he continues his time in the spotlight, hey, it could be pretty fun. I mean, if any promotion gets a guy of the caliber of Cain Velasquez as an athlete, who's going to turn that down?
Yeah, I mean, for real. Like, if you are anybody who has any control over a pro wrestling organization, and Cain Velasquez, who was an outstanding collegiate wrestler and obviously former UFC heavyweight champion, who has a tremendous amount of star power, knocks on your door and says, I want to do this, you let him do it.
Yes.
Now, to the level of consistency it speaks of with Cain Velasquez, I don't know what to say on that one. I do very distinctly remember his knee giving out after getting punched by Francis Ngannou about a month and a half ago. So, and to my knowledge, pro wrestling is very, very tough on the body. So I don't know what's going on here. I really don't know.
Well, it's tough if you're doing it consistently. If he's chilling and just training and does it once, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, just a one-off is one thing, but that probably is against your doctor's orders for rehabbing that knee. I'm assuming. Yeah, just what do I know? I'm just a clown in the Star Wars shirt.
You know a lot, sir. You know a lot.
I know nothing. Okay, I know nothing. All right, so in the chat, give a little love to the chat. The homie Matt Hunter of Mixed Combat Radio, Sherdog.com contributor, has jumped in there. Salute, my man.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, and he chimes in with this little bit of nugget of information. He says, Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson is the fight that they should have made and then actually make featherweight rankings. I do not disagree with that, but I think the plan was thrown off. Megan Anderson was in position to take on whoever was going to win the fight between Amanda Nunes and Cyborg at 232. But we forget, like, just an hour before that fight, Megan Anderson's toe went into Kat Zingano's eye and threw that into disarray. So you have a questionable win. And for understandable reasons, they probably want to run that back before throwing Megan Anderson to Amanda Nunes. And of course, we would like to see a Cyborg rematch as well. That's a possibility. So there's a lot up in the air, but I agree. Nunes versus Megan Anderson sounds good to me.
This fight is at featherweight?
No. This is a bantamweight fight.
But Matt's right. But she just fought technically at featherweight and won the title. she really should go back and defend at bantamweight. And since she is, I think in that level, I think this is the right move. She would have won the title and then fought again. You know what's happening with bantamweight. So she's doing right by her role as a double champion. She won the title. Now she went back to defend her original title, and maybe then she'll go back up to featherweight after that, which is the right thing to do.
Right,
unlike Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, you know what, and you're right on that. I didn't even think about it that way. And Jay just reminded us too that Megan Anderson is actually going to be fighting Felicia Spencer, who is another former Invicta featherweight champion at UFC Rochester. So, so I guess they do have a plan there. I mean, I know they just signed Felicia Spencer. They just signed her. In fact, I think we were asked about her last week. So there is some plan, maybe, possibly. I don't know. But at least you got a couple people there that you can scrape together these fights, and we'll keep watching. So I'm all for that action. All right, so let's move on from there. This next question is from Legendary. Very, very bold proclamation there in the name. He asked about Henry Cejudo versus Marlon Moraes. I hope Henry wins, but Marlon is going to have a considerable size advantage. Who do you got? You know,
I'd just like to compliment the forum. Everybody come in. This is a very good, diverse amount of questions. It's not like last week, like a bunch of Conor. You know, I appreciate all the work by you guys. Also subscribe. I appreciate that too. You know, this I have I don't know. Like my brain says Marlon Moraes. You know, he's a bigger guy, very good striker. He trains with guys. I believe he works with like Frankie Edgar, Eddie Alvarez, some of those guys. So I would imagine he's got probably good takedown defense. But then again, Barboza did too, and he has his problems with takedown. So I just think if his cardio doesn't fail him, no matter how much this guy Cejudo wrestled him, at some point that speed and power that he has will catch up to Cejudo, because Cejudo has not dealt with speed and power like that before. You know, he's dealt with speed, but Benavidez, you know, DJ are not power punchers. So I think Moraes should win that fight. But Cejudo's an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, and his striking has come a long way. And he's not a guy that had, you know, he had trouble cutting to that flyweight division. So, you know, he's a guy that goes up to bantamweight and isn't overly small like, say, DJ would have been. So, damn, man, I tell you, I mean, for me, it's a pick 'em. What do you think?
I'm feeling a pick 'em, but I'm leaning toward Marlon Moraes in that. I think he is, man, he's so underrated as a pure athlete. I think the height advantage can play very well to him. Also, when you think about how Marlon Moraes likes to kick you in the head, and then you're fighting a shorter guy, well, that head kick comes a lot faster. It comes a lot easier. I really think Moraes will be able to handle what Cejudo has to offer, because Cejudo's going to have a tough time, I think, closing that distance to get it to the clinch, to get the wrestling going the way he needs without getting pieced up on the way in. That's kind of what I anticipate. But God forbid, man, if Cejudo grabs a hold of him, an Olympic gold medal wrestler, I don't care how much you've been working on your takedown defense. I don't care. It just doesn't matter. When you have a wrestler of that caliber grabbing a hold of you. This is also the same guy, granted, that no size disadvantage, but Demetrius Johnson, low-key, has been one of the best wrestlers that we've seen in MMA forever. And he was getting DJ down and holding him down at UFC 227. So let's not sleep on that, man. Dude, just sign me up. Like, I still have my reservations as far as what this means for the flyweight division, but the fight itself sounds fantastic, man. The fight sounds great. So I'm willing to suspend my love of 125 to just enjoy the fights for that evening, and then I'll start complaining afterward. That's what I'll do. All right. Okay, so let's move on to a question from you guessed it, the man himself, Europe One. The weekly Kung Fu bow for Mr. Europe One. With the UFC switching their model from pay-per-views to TV deals, do you think that they will be more susceptible and damaged by scandals than before? I mean, they are pretty cozy with that one dictator that likes to purge gay people. Woo. Woo. I don't know we're ready to go that heavy. But I'll let you take it first, Jason.
I I don't think so. Because you know what? The ESPN, because we're assuming it's ESPN's having an effect on them because they're on TV. It's a major company, Disney.
It's a Disney owned thing.
Yeah. But you know what? They are nice and cozy in bed with the NFL, which has a lot of scandals. There's a lot of horrible people in the NFL. I tell you that. And there's scandals in all kinds of sports. So, and they have no problem with those sports, and they were promoting the likes of Greg Hardy's and all that stuff when he was in the Cowboys. He got traded to the Cowboys. So I don't think so. It'd have to be horrible, and it'd have to be to the uber elite. But when you're this high of a level, now you got ESPN's backing. Sports, unfortunately, and entertainment and celebrities in this country, unfortunately, are sometimes scandal proof. And they always come back from it, and so I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to have much an effect on the UFC because, like, ESPN knew all this already.
Yeah,
they knew this. Exactly. There's absolutely no secret the ties that Ramzan Kadyrov and his roster of fighters / mercenaries has with the UFC, and ties with different managers and whatnot. Like, we know this already. This is already very well documented, and yet this deal still went through, and that's not even factoring in which you brought up, which excellent points too about them promoting Greg Hardy, who's in another co-main event after proving that he is not a UFC caliber fighter. So there is definitely just sort of a leeway given for a lot of misbehavior when it comes to big money, when it comes to high level athletics. And that's just kind of what it is. I mean, like you said, the NFL is just loaded with a bunch of kids, just a bunch of horrible, poor excuses of human beings are all over the NFL. Yeah. But hey, Monday Night Football, you're still watching it, ain't you? And one thing for sure in combat sports, I think combat sports, we are used to a certain level of scumbag in whatever we do. If you've watched boxing for any extended period of time, you've watched a few scumbags. If you've watched MMA for any extended period of time, you've watched a few scumbags. They are everywhere in combat sports. And it's simply, if you are doing business in combat sports, you are doing business with scumbags inherently. And that's an unfortunate reality. And then couple that in with corporate scumbags, couple that in with so many other broad sweeping world issues. And this is not going to affect the UFC. If anything, one thing that I think mixed martial arts fans have shown themselves is particularly insensitive to a lot of issues that affect other people's lives. Things like, if you read any comment section about any article that's pointing out Ramzan Kadyrov or pointing out some of these really troublesome social problems in the world and how they blend in with mixed martial arts, you see a lot of backlash. You see a lot of people calling each other snowflakes and get over it. And a lot of very, very stupid and really insensitive things related to very serious real world issues that are bothering people beyond the confines of this silly little sport. So yeah, man, this is not going anywhere. And unfortunately, these scandals aren't going to darken the shine of the UFC. And I don't mean unfortunately as in, they should just shut down the whole company. That's not what I mean. I just mean that big money in sports will always be attached, and especially combat sports will always be attached to horrible people. They ain't far away, and we all still watch.
Before we get to DLX, we got to talk about the Greg Hardy Cohen main event. And I see we don't have any question on it. I mean, at this point, I ask you, my gifted fellow journalist, is the UFC just trolling us with him being the co-main event once again? I mean, I was there in Brooklyn for his fight. I wasn't impressed. It was a very meh fight. And he gets a main event role again after a foul that disqualified him. Like, I don't get it. Like, are they just trying to squeeze every ounce out of like his value to make some money and that's it? I mean, they're not really making extra money. They have a set deal. He's not on a pay-per-view. Like, I don't do you think ESPN's pushing for this? They want him to be the co-main event?
That's my assumption. I would assume ESPN is pushing for this because ESPN, of course, I joke around all the time. I probably have joked around on this show. I know I have in our personal conversations. ESPN is essentially the NFL network. So I'm sure with the heavy slant toward NFL coverage on ESPN, if you could tie in their new cash cow with the NFL, oh my goodness. Oh, the heavens just open up with all these possibilities. So Greg Hardy, for a lot of people who don't realize, Greg Hardy was a top-notch NFL player.
Yeah.
Like top-notch. Like this dude is only not in the NFL because he's a knucklehead. Because he's done some things that he shouldn't have been doing. That's the only reason why he's not in the NFL right now. So ESPN is just going to jump over that opportunity, I think, to put his name in there to get more people to watch, to feature him in a co-main event spot. If you feature him in the co-main event spot, that means you're watching pretty much the entire event to get to his portion. And then you'll probably stick around for the main event. So I think this is very strategic on their part. Now, what it says is that obviously skill level does not matter because while Greg Hardy is a highly, highly elite athlete, probably the most, probably the best pure athlete on the UFC roster. When you look at his background, he damn sure ain't skilled. He's damn sure not a skilled fighter. He's not a composed fighter.
He's got power, which everyone in heavyweight has.
Right. Like, yeah, he's a powerful hitter, which you can find pretty much everyone in heavyweight is.
Yeah.
So there's nothing standing out about Greg Hardy except for his name. Now, I'm not even talking about his domestic violence issues. I'm not even talking about him as a human being. This man is not co-main event material. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. Okay, like really, he does not belong in this spot. He does not belong in the UFC from a pure fight standpoint. And forgive me for not even remembering this guy's name that he's fighting. But this is a guy who washed out of the UFC, who went 0-2, and they brought him back to fight Greg Hardy. So we're not seeing high level competition on the red corner or the blue corner. We're just seeing a name that people recognize. That's really it. You might as well put CM Punk in. You might as well because, name value. Yeah. That's it.
I mean, that pretty much Europe won. You're one about scandals. If ESPN, as we theorizing that they have an influence on it, there's your answer. Scandals ain't gonna affect shit. ESPN don't care.
Right. In fact, maybe they're inviting this shit. So yeah, man. So designated member says Hardy more athletic than Olympic medalists like Romero. Nah. Hey, I'm not mad at that argument. I'm not mad. Yoel Romero is like some sort of freak from another planet. So I am not mad at that one bit. Yeah. So maybe he is a better athlete. I don't know. But yeah. So Jay brings up a good point here. So I'm not looking at the roster for that card, but Hardy is fighting above Glover Teixeira versus Ion Kudalaba, Carla Esparza versus Livia Souza, two former champions I'd like to add on that, and John Lineker versus Corey Sandhagen. Oh, also Cowboy Oliveira versus Mike Perry, which is just dripping with violence. Oh my God. So yes, he's fighting above those names. Those are highly, highly skilled people. Like Carla Esparza versus
former champion.
that fight makes my head explode. That sounds nuts. Cowboy Oliveira versus Mike Perry. You're putting Greg Hardy bum ass over that? Come on now. Yeah. With the dude that they just dug up from the street that clearly couldn't cut it in the UFC. Come on now. Like this is clearly to for the name value. That's all this is about. And I think we can expect more of this. Damn. All right. Yeah, I just got dejected right there when I thought about that. Oh, man. All right. So we're going to move on. A question from DLX. He says, do you see MMA going more towards a boxing model and eliminating exclusive contracts? And if so, what walls would need to be broken down in order for that to happen?
I don't understand. I mean, from what I'm seeing, and now I'm a casual boxing fan these days, more so than when I was younger, but it seems like there's a lot of exclusivity going on in boxing. You got, a lot of fighters signing with the Zone. There was a whole big brouhaha about Wilder, where he's gonna go. You got PBC guys, you got Showtime guys, so I mean, there's a bunch of exclusivity. Boxing does not get all the fights you want. And Fury and Wilder's not gonna happen again because of this new deal. Wilder and Fury both signed. So no. I mean, it's always going to be like that, especially, and I don't mind it in that competition is good. It sucks in terms of, boxing, so many fights that you want to see don't happen, but competition is good, content is good. It's always going to be exclusive to get away from that. I remember Jacob Debbitz did an article, shout out to Jacob. He did an article, I think it might have been back in the MMA Sucker days. It was, or maybe it was early in Sherdog, where he talked about the Ali Act and stuff like that. And the Ali Act made, I think, like 3 fight minimums, and you become a free agent, something like that. There's a lot more. That's why boxing has that a little bit, because they have the Ali Act. Maybe if that came to MMA, you'd have people jumping around a lot more.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that point, man, because it seems like boxing is doing its best to imitate the mixed martial arts model.
Yes.
Like PBC, it looks like it was created to be the UFC of boxing. Yep. Like the way the programming style, the way they were signing fighters, the way they were building up the cards, it just seemed to be.
And they build the brand. It's the brand over the fighter.
Exactly. That was the thing. So like we've seen so many issues in boxing that now both of the sports seem to be sharing some of the same problems. But I think as far as moving toward the boxing model that we kind of remember before, where more of the fights that we wanted to see got made, I think that only gets broken down if the UFC no longer exists. Because when you have a stronghold over 90% of the world-class talent in the world, they're going to be consolidated in this one place, and this one entity can dominate what they do. And I think considering how the UFC is lining its pockets more with these TV deals, the way they have a stronghold over kind of every aspect of the fighters and their lives almost, I don't think this is going away. I really don't think this is going away. The only way this is going to go away, the only way we're going to see the boxing model that we traditionally think of, is if the Ali Act gets passed for MMA, or the status of the fighters is changed to employees, and then certain things change. Like that, it will take a huge a systematic change in order to make this happen. And we're just going to see problems with MMA and boxing as far as exclusive contracts. But then if you eliminate the exclusive contracts, we're not going to see Edson Barboza versus Justin Gaethje, because Edson Barboza is going to want to fight for this network, and Justin Gaethje is going to want to fight for that network. So there's so many pros and cons to both of these things. But I think for right now, if any big change is to happen in mixed martial arts, it's going to be legislation, or it's going to be some sort of catastrophic failure of the UFC. And quite honestly, I don't anticipate either one happening anytime soon. All right. So got another question here on the chat. Do you think the Reebok deal will cease to exist one day? Man, I'm loving. We got some meta questions today. So, Jason, what do you think about will the Reebok deal cease one day?
Sure, it's more than possible, because sponsorship and partnerships switch hands all the time. So that's like saying, oh, will the UFC, always be on FS1? They moved around. So if Nike became the sponsor of UFC gear, or Puma, whatever, Fila, it totally could happen. That's the nature of business.
Yeah, I mean, the Reebok deal probably isn't going to last forever, because one, it's not a good deal for the UFC, considering the money that they're getting. Like I think was it like $70 million or something for this deal. They were offering more money to like Under Armour offered more money to Kevin Durant or Kevin Durant, or is it Kevin Durant? Whatever, some basketball player. They were offering him more money than the UFC. So
this is where the ESPN deal will play in big, because of, as if it does grow and continues to get bigger, you'll have different brands with contracts, because that's the end. That's the other thing. Contracts end, and that contract will come to the end, and then there'll be a bidding war, and they might get a much bigger deal from Nike, because Nike will say, shit, we can get our stuff on ESPN and ESPN Plus, boom, here's the money. So, or Reebok maybe will end up paying out more. So.
Yeah, or Under Armour's back in the negotiations, or Converse or whatever. There's just so many different companies that could try their hand at it. But as far as the Reebok deal going away, and it going back to the way it used to be, no. That's just not happening. As long as there isn't collective bargaining with the fighters, that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So the UFC is not, after collecting that easy check, they're not giving up that check to give it back to the fighters. So unemployed Mario Yamasaki, I'm sorry. That is why we cannot take the NASCAR approach to this. There will not be, Dynamic Fastener and Dude Wipes and Condom Depot or Guns America featured in the UFC anymore. Like that's just a thing of the past. Maybe we see Nike replace Reebok. Maybe we see Converse. Maybe we see Under Armour. Maybe we see one of these other big athletic brands. But definitely not going to be the way it used to be. So
and it's as the sport grows, it really does make a difference to have that co-branding. That's huge in the business world, branding and connections and stuff like that. So I think you'll likelier to see ONE FC, PFL already kind of does like uniforms, ONE FC, Bellator, those kind of companies just get branded content. Maybe Converse sees, Reebok's making money by doing this. Okay, let's go to Bellator or something, or Under Armour goes to one championship or whatever. So you're going to see that than the old days. That the sport's going to that. The UFC are going to lead the way in that kind of stuff. And you'll probably see more of it as the years go by.
Yeah, and I think one thing that can be done to kind of like, at least from a fan perspective, to just calm down like everyone's disillusionment with Reebok, is how about Reebok get creative maybe?
Yes. Yeah.
Try something different. UFC and Reebok say, hey, let's change up the look a little bit. I mean, how appropriate that Bryce Mitchell in his post-fight speech Saturday night. I mean, his UFC debut, his UFC proper debut, and he's yelling into the mic because he wants camouflage trunks. Give the man some camouflage trunks. When Mirko Cro Cop was told he couldn't have the Croatian flag on his shorts, which are iconic, and they were gonna just give him the standard Reebok kit. The fuck out of here! Come on now, like that's just ridiculous. Like if you're talking about trying to brand these fighters, you're trying to have stars, you're trying to make celebrities out of these people, you're trying to get interest. Variety certainly would help. It is so difficult for us as media members. And Jason, I definitely want your take on this. I know when I'm watching fight after fight after fight after fight every Saturday as part of our duties for our obligations to Sherdog.com and whatnot, which I'm not complaining about at all. I love what I do. But after a while, it gets really hard to tell who's who. When I just see Reebok-clad fighter after Reebok-clad fighter fight in fight number 11 of the 12th straight week of UFC action, I'm sorry, I forget who the hell you are.
The guy and the person that sticks out is the one that has something unique, the mohawk, the crazy tattoo, the bad tattoo. So if you can do that with their clothes, that'd be, it's personality. Personality sells in America. It's always the thing. You want some sass. Put in the clothes too.
Right, and another good comment from the chat from unemployed Mario Yamasaki, who is moving up in the rankings of the churches. Take it from a man. He says he reminds us that the UFC made Matt Mitrione take off his Jordans during an interview.
Wow, I
forgot all about that. Great point there. So yeah, like Reebok,
who's even looking at his shoes in an interview? The interviews are like bust up. Who's even looking at shoes? Good Lord.
Yeah, man.
Some Nazi stuff.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That's wild. All right, so let's move on from that. Question 9 from Is Normal.
Wait, what about 8? Did we do 8?
That was DLX.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sorry.
Jason Burgos with the trash. With the trash. All right. All right, so from Is Normal. Have you seen any new techniques in MMA recently that made you go, wow, never thought that could work in MMA, but somehow it does?
Damn, I feel like I saw something recently too. Shit. Nah, I can't think of anything offhand. I mean, Yair Rodriguez's weird back elbow from underneath was insane, but I can't think of anything offhand. I feel like I saw something recently, but I can't remember it.
Well, I'll just say a Superman hook off the cage.
Yeah.
I thought that was a thing. That the mechanics of that seem all wrong, but it happened. Got a knockout, so that's what's up. So Jay brings up in our Slack chat the low calf kick. That's a very that's something I never would have.
Which
thought
I wrote about. I wrote about that for Sherdog.
Oh, look at you! Look
it up. Look up
prophetic.
Low kicks.
All prophetic and shit.
Jason Burgos.
Captain Credential. Look at it. Look at you. Look at you, the prophet out here. But yeah, man. So the low calf kick is definitely something that that I definitely wouldn't have thought of. And then when you saw Ben Henderson employing that to very good effect toward the end of his UFC runs, like, oh man, then everybody started doing it, and it's a very effective thing. Very effective. However, very hard to pull off successfully with shin guards on. So I've tried it in training, and it's like the shin guards just kind of mess the whole thing up. So
what you mean to like land it? Like
to land it, at least to actually have its intended effect, because the shin guards are like over the calf, so you can't really employ any real damage on it.
What? I think that's why they're shin guards.
Yeah, but you think shin guards to protect bone. Bone on bone collision. Smart ass.
I just saying.
Yeah. So I think I saw this question on the forum that was a little bit longer. And it was saying like not including like a jab, because of course the jab is so underutilized in MMA.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, another technique which you don't see too many guys doing this, but I'm always impressed when someone does, is an axe kick. An axe kick is one thing. Well, I haven't been able to do a good axe kick in years. Jesus, man, I'm not able to do that like I used to. But an axe kick is something that I always thought just seemed so impractical. And then to pull it off it seemed impractical in Taekwondo and point fighting stuff. But then, or just straight up kickboxing. But then to employ that in mixed martial arts when your leg is just straight up in the air and you're so exposed to anything that other person wants to do to you. If you're able to pull that off, I'm very impressed. And I just saw, I think Robin Black did one of those minute breakdowns on Twitter about an axe kick knockout. So I was just asked about the crescent kick as well. Crescent kick, I don't see too many people using it. I'm kind of surprised I don't see it more, because the only difference is you're not turning the hip over, and it's like the side of the foot lands, and that can be very quick. I mean, I guess you see that to the legs. That's a good way to like not break your instep if a kick gets checked. So there's that, but it's also not a technique that's going to have a lot of power on it most of the time. Asking about wrestling rides, taking over BJJ positions. My grappling game is not good enough to really address the differences there. What else? Gaethje's bull guard seems suicidal, and it is. Well, so we got some grappling knowledge here on the chat as well. I like
one that we see a lot, and like those old school headlocks, like as Askren did on Lawler, like bringing that to MMA. Because we've all wrestled with a brother or a cousin or father, did headlocks, but you don't expect it to be on this high level fighting, but simple yet effective.
Yeah, see, the thing about a headlock, it's like it's an instinctual technique also. That's one of those things that you go into any bar fight in the country, somebody's going to get in a headlock. Like, and I know from doing specifically self-defense training, that's one of the first things they teach you is like defenses for headlocks, because they're so common. So that's a very instinctual thing, and that doesn't surprise me that in a sport where like it's so taxing and so brutal that you end up in some sort of headlocks present themselves. Because sometimes even out of desperation, a lot of times you'll grab, you can grab onto a headlock, even if you're not necessarily finishing a choke or something. It could be there to try to control position briefly, catch your breath, maybe transition into something else, or use as just some way to keep them from doing something else to you. So yeah, there's always those possibilities. Jay brings up on the chat. Shit, I done forgot the technique that fast. What do you say here? He said heel kick, yeah, spinning heel kick to the legs, a la Andy Hug. I do remember Lorenz Larkin pulling that off against Albert Tumanov, I believe it was, at UFC 192. I believe that was it. And I was losing my shit when he landed that technique. Fantastic stuff. He also says Andy Hug had a mean axe kick as well. So another little note from Jay on the Slack chat here is that perhaps there will be a FUBU.
Yes.
UFC fight kid.
Jay, I'm bringing back FUBU. What about Wu Wear? Maybe we get a Wu Wear.
I wouldn't mind a Wu Wear. I had a Wu Wear hoodie and a couple T-shirts.
What about, what was it? Enichi was, They had all that velour stuff, man. What about Perry Ellis?
Nah, that's too elegant. Too elegant. You might as well have Calvin Klein fight trunks.
There
like,
you
come
go.
on now.
There you go.
Nah, that's no.
Silky smooth. Oh.
They get really awkward in the grappling positions. Really awkward.
I mean, it might be good for scrambles. You just slip out all the time.
Yeah, you just slide out of stuff. Yeah, I'll pass. I will pass. South Pole is being suggested in the chat. South Pole. I forgot about that one. Cross colors. There's one from the hood right there. Y'all too young to remember cross colors. I remember that shit. Ed Hardy.
Ed Hardy.
Never want to hear the name Ed Hardy again. That was super trash when it was out, and it's still trash now. No Ed Hardy.
Is Carl Kanai still around?
I know he's still alive. I don't know about his brand, though. All right, so before we go completely off the rails here, let's see where asked about would Hapkido work in MMA? No. Would any Seagal techniques work? No.
No, yeah, you get punched in the face.
Like Hapkido, like I'm not going to trash Hapkido because there are some good things in that, but a lot of the small joint manipulation is one, illegal, and two, hard to do with gloves on.
Yep.
And Seagal is a master of Aikido. Aikido is trash and doesn't work in real life. So for all you Aikido black belts out there, I'm sorry.
He used it to take down a group of mercenaries on a stolen warship. I mean, clearly it's better than trash.
Okay. It's gourmet trash. It's garbage.
He killed Tommy Lee Jones with it. That's serious stuff.
Well, Val Kilmer killed Tommy Lee Jones also in Batman Forever. Like,
true. That's right.
Yeah, what's Val Kilmer doing right now? He's not in the dojo.
Yeah. No, he's not.
Fuck that guy.
Wow. I see.
No, I got nothing against Val Kilmer. All right. So, so we're sumo wrestling like Machida. Okay. Yeah, I don't know much about sumo wrestling. Yeah. But Machito is pretty damn good at it. So apparently, so
yeah,
he's a hard guy to take down. Oh, and if you do take him down, he's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So I'm sure that's more relevant to his grappling game than sumo wrestling.
You know that's one of those. Not all Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts are equal the same thing because he's a guy that never seemed comfortable when he's on the ground anyway.
Well, I guess you're right on that. But was he more of like a top game jiu-jitsu guy, you think?
Even then, he didn't he was never a guy that enjoyed a good ground and pound. Like he'd maybe throw some shots and want to get back to standing, you know?
So are you saying that his Nogueira black belt came with a Happy Meal toy?
It's possible. Maybe two. Yeah. Is that what he has? He has Nogueira black belt?
I was just assuming because he's part of the team. So yeah, I'm just throwing shit out there. Okay. See what sticks. All right. So let's move on here. We got another question from Europe One. He says, can you believe that all of us are part of ONE FC's 1.8 billion potential viewers? Marketing wise, is ONE's brand of extreme hyperbole just empty noise, or is any noise good noise? Oh, that is a beautifully worded question, Europe One. Shit, he's getting another Kung Fu bow for that.
First of all, Europe One, you're wrong. It's 2.6 billion now, buddy.
You're
wrong. I don't know. Listen, there's going to be an article with Chatri and Young Tong coming very soon. The Sherdog Europe One. Be on the lookout for that. From everything he talked to me about, and in the previous article, I buy it. They're growing too much for it to be bullshit. And even in that, what we've talked about in the show, that Bloody Elbow report on their finances, which I did get to ask him a little bit about, they have the court documents about Dana White even saying how big they were, and that when he goes to Asia, they ask, "Oh, are you guys like one FC or one championship?" We have to realize there's a humongous world out there. Perfect example. Combate America. I did the story with, and I talked to Cam McLaren. They cater to South America, Spain, the Latin-speaking market, and they're making money. They're making headway in places like Mexico. They're doing good ratings. You know, one championship caters to the most populated hemisphere on the planet. That's based in a culture on all these various countries that have their own martial arts. And then this is a company that doesn't just do MMA, they do other martial arts. So I do buy that they're making money, and they have investors that they're making money. So I don't believe remember, if they throw out there the number like, oh, it has a reach, that doesn't mean that's who's watching. That just means that they have these network deals that many people could watch, which is now they actually have a new deal with India, which is going to be another billion people that can be possible people that watch. So even if they're getting like 20, 30 million from those various regions, that's still a lot of people that are watching. So I think it's just a part of the promotion game. All of these people do it. You know, Dana White is a master of hyperbole. One FC, one championship is legit. You know, this is, I think, slowly becoming the number 2. And based off the signings they're making, they're kind of starting to show it too. So Bellator is losing out on free agents to them now. So it's promotion, but it's also some reality too.
I'm not quite sure what to think about this. So, for one, they do have an extreme brand of hyperbole. That's part of their whole shtick. And I got this sense when I was covering their media event in Las Vegas earlier in the month, and when the guy is up there, and I forget his name. I want to say it's Mitch or something like that. When he's up there and he's talking to the mic with this like caricature voice, and it's like we're broadcasting 1.8 billion homes around the world, and like this, like ONE FC has what, like we have 39,000 champions and 1,700 martial arts ranging from karate, taekwondo. It was just so over the top. It was like, bro, are we really doing this? Yeah. But I get it. What's going on? I mean, there is a huge world out there, and the U.S. market, while it is a financial juggernaut, doesn't have nearly as many people as the Asian market. There's a reason why it's a big deal for the UFC to get into China. Why they put this big performance institute there?
China is getting Avengers Endgame before we're getting it.
They are.
They're getting it the 24th.
We get the 26th, right?
Yes.
Motherfuckers.
China got money, y'all.
You trying to book a flight, though?
No, not yet.
Man, you bullshit, man. You ain't about this nerd life. You ain't about this life. All right, so I'm going without you. So yeah, man, like there's a huge world out there. There's a reason why the UFC has got that performance institute being built in China. There's a reason why it was a big deal for Arjun Bhullar to join the UFC rankings because he's of Indian descent, and India is a huge country. So there is a reason why there's an international team of UFC employees to go out and find this stuff out, because the world exists beyond the United States. And I know for a lot of people in the US, it's very hard to picture life outside of the US, but it exists. It certainly exists. And for you MMA fans in the US, yes, it goes beyond Canada and it goes beyond Brazil.
Yeah.
It's a big world out there. And it goes beyond Ireland and England too. So there are a lot of people who love fighting that aren't in the United States or in North America or the Americas.
There's cultures that were doing fighting long before we even existed.
Exactly. So I do think they have the potential to do a lot of big things. Now, one thing for sure, I wouldn't take a lot of stock in Chachu quoting Dana White from the antitrust lawsuit, because
no, he didn't bring it up. I'm just saying we saw
he didn't bring okay.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't take a lot of, with Dana White saying, hey, when we go to Asia, they ask, are you ONE FC? I mean, he's not exactly known to tell it like it is all the time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go quite that far, but I do think that that noise is good noise for them. Even if you want to call it empty, I think it is good noise for them because it is drawing attention. I do know this when I turn on YouTube right now, one of the ads that runs is Eddie Alvarez and Demetrius Johnson fighting Saturday in the middle of the night. Yeah. Like that's a real thing. So all of this is bringing attention, it's bringing eyeballs, it's not letting us forget what they have to offer. So,
and they're just breaking into this market. This is not their base market. They're just making their way in here, you know. So it's all new to us, but they've been doing stuff for 7.5 years somewhere else and doing it for a while. So, you know, just think of the UFC, how long they've been at it here and what they've built in that time. And also, if let's say they're in the discussion for number 2 in the world, that's still impressive on a legitimate level for 7.5 years. So, you know, the UFC took a long time to build up and everything. So to do what they're doing in 7.5 years, it's, you know, that's good signs. They could fail. There's a lot of great promotion that have failed, but there's a lot of, you know, legitimacy behind them right now.
Right. So I'm very curious as to what this deal with Turner Sports is going to do for them, because we've heard words.
Do you want me to give you a little news on that?
Oh, yes, please. Breaking news from Captain Credential himself.
Again, for all you watching, please go read the article. I guess it's probably going to come out tomorrow, Saturday. Now, just on the Turner thing, because I'm sure all of you that are watching, you're not thrilled by the fact it's on Bleacher Report. You got to go to Bleacher Report Live and watch. And then on TNT, they have just the highlight show. They are in discussions to put entire events on TNT soon. Well, not soon. It's in discussions, and TNT is part of the reason I think they are pushing to do events in the U.S. and Madison Square Garden. So the TNT deal is having an influence, and the TNT deal is going to have an influence for one in the U.S. And TNT and them are talking about doing bigger and more together. So TNT clearly sees value in them and want to get more of their content on a bigger level.
Let's also keep in mind that Eddie Alvarez and Demetrius Johnson were in studio with or was Sage Northcutt there?
Yeah, it was Sage. It
was Eddie Alvarez and Sage Northcutt were in studio with Shaquille O'Neal and whoever else hosts that show.
And that's one of the biggest things for TNT on their network is the NBA coverage. So they've already taken one and gone, boom, we'll throw you right in here on our major shows to let our viewers know. So they're trying for sure.
Right. So those same benefits that we talk about with ESPN and the UFC and how positioning itself alongside ESPN boosts the UFC's profile because of all the other programming associated with that brand. Same thing for TNT and One Championship. The exact same thing. Of course, ESPN is a much bigger brand than Turner Sports, but still it's a very big step up for gaining headway into the North American market. Now, if the fans catch on to it without the level of trash talk and stuff that we've grown to expect in the UFC, hey, there's something there. So at the very least, we've got a couple of very, very good fighters on that roster that can draw some attention. So, all right. So let's go ahead and drop this question also from Frank McEgger. Is the fight between Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Michelle Waterson the sexiest fight in the UFC to date?
Wrong. You know, and this, again, this is completely subjective because clearly Frank McEgger, I think he likes some Kowalkiewicz. How? You're not going to beat Paige Van Zandt and Ostovich. Am I right, Anthony? How can you beat Van Zandt and Ostovich?
I mean,
come on now. Just on a booty level.
All right. kind of threw me for a loop there. Yes, they are very attractive women. Michelle Waterson and PVZ was another one for you. You creeps and freaks out there.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I don't even know what to say, man. I okayed this question. But yeah, Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Karate Hottie, no, it is not the sexiest fight to date. I would reference one of the two fights that myself and Mr. Burgos have mentioned there, and I'm sure there are others that we are forgetting about. I can
Alimale and Lara, those are very two badass women and very attractive women too.
So I'm being prompted on the chat to bring up Misha Tate. Yes, Misha Tate. Misha Tate. Misha Tate versus Kat Zingano.
Misha Tate, Ronda. You don't like Ronda? Okay, fair enough.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Chat, who's Ronda good? Yay or nay? Chat, please.
Yeah, please jump in the chat on that one. Wow, I can't. Well, wow, we have devolved rapidly. Thank you, Frank McGregor, for this downturn in this high integrity show that we'd like to run on this motherfucker.
You know, we should really, since that fight isn't in the next question in our picks, we should just put it in there anyway, since it could just transition it.
Yeah. Whatever.
Oh, we're not gonna. We don't want to do picks for that.
Picks. Yeah. I was just reveling over how we decline morally. All right. So yes. So picks. Yes. So yes. Let's do that. Oh shit. I should probably pull up the fights, right? Yeah, I should do that. Let me pull up the fights on.
Do we want to do the poll first, or we do want to say the
poll? Let's do the poll. Let's do the poll. I forgot about the poll, man. Can you pull up the poll? I got too many screens going on right now. I'm all confused.
Okay, we got what is the most impactful MMA news headline this week? So far, we have 53% say McGregor under investigation for alleged sexual assault. At 14%, actually tied at 14%. The first one says Woodley versus Lawler 2. Also tied with that for number 2 is John Jones versus Santos is the next big news. Number 3 at 10% is McGregor's retirement. At 6%, they say the Nevada State Athletic Commission extending Pedro Munoz's suspension for jumping on the cage, which is a bunch of bullshit. And 2% finishing at the back is the Nunes versus Holm news.
Damn, I would say the Conor news because he's a bigger star.
Yeah.
But I'm so tired of Conor news. Like,
you know what? I'll ask you this.
Tired of it.
What's more impactful, Conor retiring or Conor sexual assault?
Conor retiring.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, as horrible as it is to put his retirement over over a sexual assault, it's pretty bad, but at the same time, man, you're talking about out of the cage actions, which don't affect what happens on fight night. Conor not fighting affects what happens on fight night. Yeah, so that's the only reason why I would say that. Like, if we're talking about from a pure social or moral standpoint or legal or anything outside of just watching a fight and just enjoying the fighters on the screen, then yeah, that would be my take on that one. All right, so I guess we should move on. Let me scan the chat, make sure there's nothing else here. All right, so we got some speculation about Frank McGregor and his abilities to corrupt the rest of the world. Apparently, he perverts everything he touches, according to a designated member on the chat. I'd agree, Frank McGregor, shame on you. Yeah. Shame on you for doing this. Yeah. Designated member also jumping in and saying, imagine the violence during T. Wood versus Robbie 2. Blood everywhere. Heads that look like they've been hit with meteoroids. That is gruesome yet stunning. And I'm intrigued. That fight too, man. I
like that fight.
I like it. Now, I definitely understand the protest about it. I've seen like a little bit of rumblings on Twitter, like, oh, this fight doesn't make any sense. I get it. I get it, because at least if you're Woodley, why do it? You finished them in no time. It doesn't do you any favors to revisit that and not perform at that level, because granted, it's just going to be damn near impossible for Woodley to perform better than he did in their first fight. So, yeah, but still, for Woodley to have a rebound fight against a guy who isn't going to grind him against the fence, whose game plan is not going to be based on just swarming him and holding him in place and trying to sap his gas tank, a guy who's going to let him strike back. makes sense. And if you're Robbie Lawler, of course you want that one back. And that's also not forget the role that Ben Askren plays in this. You know, Ben Askren being Robbie Lawler's last opponent and the controversy and people wanting to see that rematch. Now you have some way to continue that this sudden rivalry by having Askren's friend and teammate step in his place and what other people wanted to see as Askren Lawler too. So
I actually saw it the flip way in that I felt it made sense for Woodley. You know, why not? He beat him before. Lawler's decline seems much more distinct than his own. It seemed like a winnable fight on that level. I was surprised Lawler in his camp took it in that this is a serious chance to lose 3 in a row, 3 out of 4. Like, I'm surprised at this point, maybe he didn't take more of a, I don't want to say easier, but like, this is a tough fight. You're going to go now. You've lost 2 in a row, 3 out of 4, or 4 out of 5 he would lose. And now you're going to face the former champion. Like, man, that's a dicey move and really continuing to hurt your value, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of question marks around it, but it is a good action fight. So, yeah. So in that sense, and then also my theory that Tyron Woodley, no matter what, will never be given a shot at the title again. Yeah,
agree.
This would kind of fall right in that line.
Yeah, I agree.
Because this is a fight, he wins this fight, it puts him no closer to getting back in the title picture.
Yep.
Yeah. So like that's and you know, like I think if you put him, my original suggestion was to put him against the winner of Leon Edwards and Gunnar Nelson. I thought that would have been that would have been a good point if you're trying to build him back to a title fight. But since they're not going in that direction, it's probably just not going to happen. But hey, we'll see it when it gets there. It should be a good fight, though. All right. So let me see. Do we have? All right. So we got to go through our picks, right?
Correct.
All right. So where's my screen? All right. Here we go. So our picks for UFC on ESPN2: Barboza versus Gaethje. Let's start it off with Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Michelle Waterson. Mr. Burgos, Captain Credential, who you got?
You know, it's an interesting fight. I feel I'm leaning more to Kowalkiewicz, just because it seems like Waterson, when she starts to hit that elite, like top 5 level, she seems to fall back. Like she seems to hit a ceiling with those the best of the division. I feel like Kowalkiewicz is that. I think her only losses are to Joanna, who's in Nunes. I mean, Namajunas, and you know, Jay, you could tell me if I'm right. Joanna, Namajunas, and Andrade. I think that's her only losses. So you lost to the 2 champions, last 2 champions, and the next number 1 contender. So that's the very elite she's losing to. So I just feel like Waterson is gonna face the elite again. But then again, Waterson is talented. Maybe this is her breakthrough. But my gut says Karolina gets back in the win column and gets the win of Waterson, probably via unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that as well. I think Karolina Kowalkiewicz takes a decision here. And as much as I enjoy watching Michelle Waterson, and she can put on some very good performances, I just don't see her being able to do everything she wants to do against Kowalkiewicz. Kowalkiewicz, if anything, she may not stand out in any particular area, but she's very good at shutting people down on what they like to do.
Yeah.
And unless you are Joanna Jacek, unless you are was shorty that just knocked her head off, Claudia Gadelia,
Andrade,
yeah, Jessica Andrade. Unless you're of that ilk, where you have this overwhelming ability to outstrike, or you have this overwhelming ability to swarm with power, like Karolina's game is so comprehensive that she normally gets through that sort of stuff.
Yeah, if you're gonna point fight her, she's probably gonna win.
Exactly. That's kind of what I see happening. I see this turning into a point fight where Karolina is moving forward and Michelle Waterson is struggling to get real power in the kicks because she's taking a back step. And I think that's gonna get Karolina her hand raised with a unanimous decision there. All right, Jason, who you got between Josh Emmett and Michael Johnson?
Michael Johnson's such a weird fighter, man. He usually when he fights again, another one that when he hits that top level, he usually falls back. But he can that in between. It's it's one way or the other. It's not definitive. He can beat some guys. He loses the other guys. And I feel like Emmett is that middle. I don't know if he's the elite of the division. He's right there in that middle area. And damn, just I'm gonna go with Emmett. Very little confidence about it. I think he because Michael Johnson's good, got solid takedown defense. He's not like these guys that just gets wrestled to death. But I think Emmett will use his wrestling, grind it out, get some takedowns here and there. Probably lose on the feet, but he'll get enough in terms of the takedowns to get enough scoring to probably also, I would think, get the unanimous decision as well.
Oh, man, I'm kind of back and forth on this one as well, but mainly because we haven't seen Emmett for like a year now. It's been a little over a year since he lost to Jeremy Stevens. I'm kind of feeling Michael Johnson on this one. He's been more active. He's also one of those guys who kind of can do everything when he decides to. He has nasty power when he chooses to. He has very, very effective striking when he chooses to. He has very good counter wrestling when he chooses to. So I think it's just a matter of what version of Michael Johnson we see. Michael Johnson, from an athletic standpoint, from a skill standpoint, he should have been a champion. He's a guy who very well could have had a belt around his waist quite some time ago. But I gotta go with Michael Johnson. If Michael Johnson does what he's capable of doing, I don't think there are many people that beat him consistently, and I don't think Josh Emmett is that guy. So, yeah,
I'll throw and again, this is where I guess my gut's feelings strong about Emmett and just his grappling. Some of Johnson's recent losses: Darren Elkins, Khabib, no shame in that, of course, Khabib, and Beneil Dariush, all wrestle heavy grappler types. Emmett, I think, is as good as an Elkins or a Dariush, so that's why I'm leaning towards Emmett.
Yeah, I just. But the thing is, with Elkins, you've got like this constant pressure and this reckless abandon. Yeah. With Khabib, you've got one of the most overwhelming grapplers that that MMA world has ever seen. And with Beneil Dariush, you have this unique submission threat. So I don't see Josh Emmett being as extreme in any of those instances. I think he's just middle of the pack enough for Michael Johnson to do what he does.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. So let's see. What is the next fight up? And of course, I didn't prepare my screen, so now I can let. All right, now it's loaded. David Branch versus Jack Hermanson. Jason, who you got?
I'm going to pick Hermanson. I'm going to go with youth here. David Branch is skilled. He's a very solid, well-rounded fighter, a good grappler. I just feel at 37, it's going on the wrong side of the career and things get a little bit more dangerous as you get older. Hermanson's got solid pop in his hands. I just feel like he'll get him at some point. I'll pick second round TKO for Hermanson.
Okay, well, I'm going to go the exact opposite. I think David Branch is going to pull it off. David Branch, man, he is so underrated, and it seems like whenever he's at that fight that at least in the UFC is going to get him up to the next level, he comes up short.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think Hermanson is the guy to break this train for him. Like David Branch loses to guys like Rumble Johnson, guys like Luke Rockhold, Jared Cannonier, who was a heavyweight and was coming down. Like that seems to be the type of guy that David Branch will lose to. You're talking about one of the low key most skilled guys in so many different facets in the middleweight division. I think this is his fight right here. I think it's his fight. I'm not sure if he gets the finish, but he gets his hand raised. So that's my pick there. Let's see. And for the main event, Edson Barboza versus Justin Gaethje. Jason, please, who you got?
I'm actually going to go Gaethje. Which this all reminds me, I've got to put in my picks with Jay. Sorry, Jay. But I'm going to pick Gaethje just that I feel like, and a friend of mine sent me a good piece of audio through MMA Junkie on the IG, where it was Barboza saying, they were asking him, if you fight technical, fight IQ, smart, can you beat him? And he was like, yeah, that's will be the goal, fight smart, pick my shots. But I'm a fighter, man. And I was just like, oh, this is not the guy you want to test your fighting spirit with, because he's not going to go away. I just feel like Barboza is the kind of guy, when things get hot in the cage, his strategy kind of goes out the window. He goes instinctive. And Gaethje is a guy that was going to push you, and he's going to bring a storm. Alvarez, Poirier are very good in the storm. I don't know about Barboza. He has the abilities to turn anybody's lights out like that, but I just feel like Gaethje is going to weather that storm. He's going to eventually start picking at Barboza. Barboza's going to make some mistake, and Gaethje is going to get to him maybe, I would say, third round somewhere, and I think he'll get a TKO stoppage in the third round.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that a similar result here. I don't know if Gaethje gets the finish, but man, I think it's going to be ugly for Barboza. Because like Barboza is another guy, just like Michelle Waterson, where if you're on that back foot, it's hard to get those kicks going. And we saw Khabib do that. We saw Kevin Lee do that. You push forward against Edson Barboza, and he has a very difficult time getting those kicks. We tend to forget. What's your man's name that beat him in an upset when they brought him back? When they brought him to the UFC after his WEC run. I forget. He used to have a feud with Cowboy Cerrone, and he was WEC champ for a little bit.
Jamie Varner.
Yeah, Jamie Varner. Yeah. So Jamie Varner rushed him with punches, and Barboza really couldn't do anything. He was overwhelmed. Yeah. So I think we're going to see something similar to that. Yeah. And we were asked in the chat by Frank McEgger about is Justin Gaethje going to show off his wrestling skills and abandon his brawler style for this fight? No.
Wrong.
We've been asking that question for his entire career at this point. You know, when Louis Palomino was giving him all he could handle in World Series of Fighting, he damn sure didn't abandon his brawling style then. He doubled down on it. Yeah. When he was going punch for punch with Michael Johnson, punch for Eddie Alvarez, punch for Dustin Poirier, he sure did abandon his wrestling then. I don't see why he suddenly would start wrestling now. Of course, maybe if Barboza lands some wheel kick out of nowhere and gets him on a stanky leg, yeah, maybe he does shoot him for a takedown out of instinct. Maybe. But I don't even think that's his instinct anymore. I think his instinct is just stand there, bite down on his mouth guard, and start throwing more. Yeah. But the problem is, Gaethje will always be moving forward. Barboza will not be able to fight going backward. You know, and that's kind of going. I think that's going to be the tale of this fight. I would love to see it be, you know, a more measured, like real kickboxing exchange, but I just don't think it plays out that way. I just see Gaethje steamrolling him simply because Barboza will have trouble getting his footing down to throw those kicks. So yeah, Gaethje pulls this one out, late finish or decision in my book.
It makes me sad. That's a great point to bring up the wrestling Gaethje, that Gaethje doesn't use it. And I get it. He's fan friendly. He likes that style. He enjoys it. But man, imagine if not even like to really win a fight, but you go for a takedown. Maybe you surprise, you land one, you fake takedowns and you're striking. How much that little extra wrinkle in his game would help his game if people thought, oh shit, he can wrestle from what I've heard. He's credentialed and he's just faked with it to set up his striking more. How much of a difference would he make? But he doesn't give a fuck at all.
Yeah, it's like that. Just the possibility of pretending to use it doesn't exist.
It offends him.
Yeah, it's like how dare you suggest I would go for it? Hey, trying to save you some brain cells, my man. But that's just what he does, and he's so good at that. Yeah, Barboza is very good in a brawl as well. We just saw him just eviscerate the internal organs of Dan Hooker. But you don't have the same level of pressure. You don't have, and even the variety in, like, Justin Gaethje isn't just a brawler. He has variety in his brawling. To be able to brawl and you're in the pocket and you're throwing leg kicks along with all these heavy overhands, that's just a weird thing to deal with. That's a very overwhelming thing to deal with. And I just don't see Edson Barboza being able to do it. Like, if he doesn't establish those leg kicks right away, I mean, the bell rings and he tries to kick his leg off. If he doesn't do that, it is going to be a long, painful night for Edson Barboza.
He's like a new age Chris Lieben with more one-hitter quitter power. like same kind of push forward, like overwhelm you with force and big power, but just, and I can't say he's more technical. He's really not, but there's a fight ending ability that separates him a little bit more from Chris Lieben, that keeps him a little bit at the highest levels more than Chris Lieben was, you know?
Right. Maybe he just naturally can absorb more punishment.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he proportionally, maybe he hits hard or something. I don't know, but there's a big difference between brawling the way Gaethje does it with variety, and I'm glad you mentioned that he's still not that technical when he's brawling, because you look at Max Holloway, that's a technical brawler. Yes. That's the guy who's in the pocket and he's moving, he's fluid, and he's throwing these logical combinations, and he's still measuring distance. Gaethje is not about that. Gaethje is about being up in your face and knocking your damn head off, no matter how many times he gets hit in the process. It doesn't matter. And while that strategy did not work against Eddie Alvarez, it did not work against Dustin Poirier, and it would not work against a lot of other people that fight in the lightweight division, I think it works on Edson Barboza. Yeah.
Because they out-techniqued him, but they're willing to stand and can deliver in the pocket with you. And then Eddie has power, and then Gaethje can land some combination. He has good pop. Barboza, he's too willing to go back and do that movement, and that, which is good. I mean, it's got him to this level, but you nailed it. Like, this is a stylistic fight that doesn't seem right for him. But maybe he'll prove us wrong.
Yeah, he might prove us wrong. I mean, he's with ATT now, and that camp has done wonders for a lot of people. So we'll see if any new lessons he's picking up. And from what I understand, he's training a lot with Dustin Poirier for this fight. Maybe I heard that incorrectly, but if he's training a lot with Dustin Poirier and Poirier is showing him things in particular that could work, hey, maybe we got something here. Because Edson Barboza is such a gifted athlete. He's so fast and sharp and explosive. And I think even when he is tired, he's still extraordinarily dangerous. You know, what was it in the 4th round against Kevin Lee? He damn near decapitated him. You know, other than that, every other moment of the fight, he was getting dominated. Yeah. But right then, when you would think this is the time to wither, this is the time to fall away and die, he damn near turns the tables when one move. So he has that ability, but I just don't think it's going to come into play. I think Gaethje does whatever he wants to do when he wants to do it Saturday night. All right. So I'm gonna scan the chat and make sure there are no good points. We got a lot of help from everybody reminding me who Jamie Varner was, and a lot of debate about the technical aspects of Gaethje Barboza. Let's see, anything else? Nothing too pressing, but definitely want to thank everyone who participated in the chat. Definitely want to thank everyone who participated on the forum and dropped your questions. So please, please, please keep it up. We'll be here next week. We want to see you too. So like and subscribe, do all that good shit, share it. Let's have fun. All right. So Mr. Burgos, Captain Credential, the CEO collector, the lover boy of LaGuardia, please, Jason, tell me, what do you have coming up for the good folks on Sherdog.com?
A lot. Lot's already up. The Bibiano Fernandez article is up. Also, the audio is with it too, so you can hear Bibiano Fernandez and me chat. My interview or my article on Yuya Wakamatsu, the guy who's pretty much being set up as the sacrificial lamb to the MMA deity that is Mighty Mouse. I have an article and he answers some questions for me. Interesting story on him. The Eddie Alvarez interview just went up. It's on the YouTube channel here, and it's on the site, which is good. Eddie Alvarez talks to me about fighter unions, MMA free agency, how the integrity can be returned to lightweight division, all kinds of stuff. And of course, his opponent at One Championship, A New Era. We'll still have an article, which I find very cool, that I'm going to have on Shinya Aoki, who is in the main event of One Championship, A New Era, against Edward Foliang in a rematch of their fight from 2016 to get a guy. When I got into the sport, Aoki was one of the guys that was becoming like a big star. He's like a legend of Japanese MMA. So to get him to answer some questions for me was great. And of course, the Chatri Sit Young Tom article will be in the next couple of days. Tons of information that I have to do an 800-word minimum. I gave y'all 1,800. It's a lot of information. I didn't want to pass up on anything, and it fit. And I will be in the building at UFC Philly. I'll probably be on the Sherdog Twitter and my own Twitter, tweeting stuff from the media room. Hopefully, I will be out by the cage side, tweeting from there as well. And as always, Cheap Seats Chat on Instagram and on. Oh yeah, wait. Also have an article with Joey Davis, 4-time Division II NCAA champion. That's up till he fights at Bellator 219 tomorrow. But yeah, Cheap Seats Chat, Instagram, Twitter.
Sweet. Well, busy in the life of Captain Credential. So I can be found on Twitter at Walker MMA. Actually, one other thing I'll address in the chat just popped up that I just saw actually from Ricky J Sports. I've always been a huge fan of the Sherdog Radio Network. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It says, where TJ, Jeff, and Jordan? They're not here. Jordan is still part of Sherdog. Jordan, you find his column. Was it 5 lessons learned that will be post UFC Philly? TJ and Jeff Sherwood, they run a Patreon channel called Between Rounds, so check them out. They put out some good work there. All right, so you can find me on Twitter at Walker MMA. That's also my Instagram name. I still don't post much, but follow me anyway. As far as what I have coming up and what is in the works for me right now, my latest MMA on Point video, 10 most embarrassing moments in mixed martial arts, is live. Went live a couple days ago. So go on the MMA on Point channel and check that out. Or you can go on my personal channel, the Walkout Network. I put a link to my MMA on Point videos there. So you can follow that. I also have Ask Ant, the mailbag column. I'll go over whatever questions are left over, and if they are some good ones, I'll write a mailbag column for the week. That would be live tomorrow or Saturday. There will also be a good, bad, and ugly post-fight analysis for UFC Philly. That should be live Sunday. And I think I'm going to just go ahead and do another live stream, the Walk of Shame, my official post-fight show on the Walkout Network, which will go on immediately after the events of UFC Philly. So please like and subscribe to that channel as well. And everyone who's in the chat right now, invited to the Walkout Network. Go ahead, like, subscribe, join in that chat, join in the discussion. We'll talk about everything that happens on Saturday night. And and we got one coming up as well. Maybe if enough happens on one, maybe if I stay awake long enough, I'll do something else for that. Probably not though, because I'll be asleep and watch in the morning. All right. So with that being said, I'm Anthony Walker. He's Jason Burgos. Appreciate everyone for joining in and your participation. So you know what you got to do. You must stay beautiful. You must stay positive. You must stay incredible in everything that you do. And through it all, the most important part is that you must, absolutely, you got to stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.